Paranormal Adventures proudly presents the Supernatural Roundtable, a journey into the shadows of the unknown, where myths and legends blur with reality. Join your hosts, Sean, Craig, and Richard, as they explore the unexplained, diving deep into the chilling mysteries of the supernatural. From the towering figure of Bigfoot lurking in the forests, to the eerie whispers of dogmen and the elusive presence of Mothman, we seek the truth behind the world's most elusive cryptids. Ghostly apparitions, otherworldly encounters, and the unseen forces that linger in the darkness await. Together, we'll explore UFOs, government cover-ups, and the forgotten history buried beneath decades of secrecy. What are the origins of these mysteries? What are the consequences of their existence? And more importantly, what do they mean for us? Prepare yourself to venture beyond the veil of reality. Turn down the lights, listen closely, and step into the unknown, because the supernatural world is closer than you think. This is the Supernatural Roundtable.
All right. So, I think this is a topic that I've been kind of fascinated with. Is the hollow Earth. Basically, anything to do with this, like anything below the crust of the Earth, is a theory because nobody knows what's down there. Even what scientists say is down there, they don't know if it's actually there or not because there's no way for us to find out. Um, we kind of covered this the last time we talked about, or Wednesday, but I thought I'd go ahead and, for people that uh, haven't listened to that, which it's only on, that episode's only on Podbean. So for the listeners on YouTube, so the scientists say that the crust of the Earth is 9 to 12 miles thick, or 30, 50 kilometers for the rest of the world. The mantle is 1,800 miles, or 2,900 kilometers. The outer core is 1,367 miles, or 2,200 kilometers, and the inner core is 760 miles, or 1,220 kilometers. That I don't have a clue because there's no way they could have measured it. Then the hollow Earth theory claims that the basically the crust that we're on, where the openings are, is, see if I can find it in my notes. Where the openings would be, like in the north and south poles, is roughly 500 miles, and like it towards like the equator is close to 1,500 miles. I don't have that in kilometers, so for all those weird people that are into kilometers and all that, I don't have that for the inner the hollow Earth crust. So I just want to throw that back out for those that might not have heard the first part of this.
You know, the research I done on it, I mean, explorers looking for this hollow Earth for a long time. I mean, I've got one here, 17th century, Edmund Halley, and he was one of the first ones that wanted to go down there. But, I mean, honestly, at that time, I don't know how they was doing it. Been attempted.
I don't know that they had the technology to do that.
Right. And then a century later, in the 18th century, John Cleve's signs. You know, he even published a paper about it. You know, and his, I guess his research and stuff. You know, it kind of inspired the Arctic. You know, then along comes Richard Byrd. You know, Admiral.
Yeah.
You know, here he is, a decorated person in the military.
Yeah.
You know, he had, I believe you had all the medals he had, didn't you, Sean?
Yeah, I've got him. He had Admiral Byrd had the Medal of Honor, the Navy Cross, 2 Navy Distinguished Service Medals, 2 Legion of Merit, Distinguished Flying Cross, Congressional Gold Medal. Then I don't have this wrote down, but he is one of only 4 people that had one of the medals that he had. Out of everybody that's received medals, he's only one of 4 that had a medal that had his own face on it. Then he was also a World War I and a World War II veteran, and basically he was a polar explorer too. You know, when they never send the military to all the Antarctic, basically the one that they said, "Hey, take this down there," and he led the group.
He had that record-setting flight over the North Pole.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get much more distinguished than him on that.
And you know, for somebody that's that decorated, he's not, you know, he's not one of them that's just gonna mess up and like that up.
You definitely wouldn't think so. And the stuff he wrote in that diary, you know, it just makes you wonder, you know, does it actually exist? Because, you know, the whole earth, you know, even Hitler and the Nazis were looking for it.
Yeah.
You know, you had all these different people, and you know, dating back, you know, Indian, the Hopi and Indians, they, you know, that was in their history. It's just, you know, how can something that doesn't exist, why is everybody wanting to find this place? You know, why is it so important?
Yeah, there's also legends. You talked about the Hopi, but also, let's see here. What is it? The Tibetan, there's legends in Tibetan Buddhism and Buddhism about, you've probably heard the name Shambhala.
Yeah.
I've heard it.
It is also referring to underground civilization, underground lands.
That's actually something I was going to get.
They believed in that legendary city, Agata.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also one that is older than that. Predates it's in a Hindu mythology, and it's at least 3,000 years old, called Patala. Yeah. So they talked about, unlike the Western world, Patala is described as beautiful, luxurious, filled with treasure and knowledge, is ruled by powerful but often misunderstood beings who live apart from the human world. So, yeah, I mean, the legends of Hollow Earth have been around for a long time.
What do you think about it? You know, why wouldn't, you know, all these governments, you know, our government included, you know, why would they put so much into it to what?
That one of the things I was down was that, and like what y'all talking about a while ago, the Hindus, Buddhists, Native Americans, the Celts, and other, you know, other people all have similar stories of human origin mythical races, even gods living underground.
Mm-hmm.
So, these are people all over the world that believe that there's, they say there's gods that are underground.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, who's saying, the whole Bigfoot phenomenon, maybe they speak of giants, down in Hollow Earth. Who's to say that Bigfoot didn't come from there?
Now, you're talking about that Agatha. One thing that I found was that, and this is a good ways from either pole, but it says that the entrance to Agatha is located in the Himalayas. And it says the kingdom links all the continents through a network of tunnels created by the old ones. So supposedly they're all they could appear like in China, go into the entrance and appear in North America. It's all connected. Somehow they've got it all connected, And I think it was the Hopis Indians that I was reading or seeing where they had a legend of the ant people. Well, thinking about that, the ant people, well, ants have tunnels underground, and these people are supposedly have tunnels that connect throughout the throughout the earth. You can see the similarities between the two.
Right. I even read, in Germany, there was a Dr. Heinrich Kiss that, of course, they say that, they have thousands of tunnels that stretch throughout Europe, and these tunnels head back to the sea. And this Dr. Heinrich Kiss finds that these ancient highways, have been found under the Neolithic settlements all across there.
Well, there's also a weird parallel. You talked about Admiral Byrd. Then I found an account by a man named Olaf Jansen. We were talking about it before the podcast, but he was a Norwegian sailor who in the early 1800s claimed that he and his father sailed north into a vast underground realm where they met 12-foot tall giants living in a utopia, and it was lit by a smoky inner sun. They stayed for 2 years. They observed massive vegetation, fruits, all that, ancient technology, and even mammoths, which is something. The mammoth thing comes up in the Byrd diary and in multiple accounts of Hollow Earth.
Yes.
Well, on the return journey, they stayed 2 years, and his father was lost at sea on the return. And when he got back, he started telling his story, and then the local authorities institutionalized him they thought it was crazy. He didn't speak again until an author by the last name of Edwards sat down with him and wrote a book called The Smoky God.
Wow.
He was asking about it. The Smoky God, which was published in 1908, which he depicts Jensen's journey there and what they saw.
Wow, that's very interesting.
We've talked about a couple guys now that have been institutionalized, and Admiral Byrd, when after his trip, he was told not to say a word. He was basically told to shut up. You know, he not to say anything about it, and you know, being the kind of guy he was, the kind of military guy he was, he did what he was told. And and I'm going to throw this out. We actually got a listener on Podbean Live.
Sweet.
So, anyway, I do have the Podbean Live up and going. So,
Yeah, it's just, there's so much about it. You can dig and dig and dig, and there's my question about it all is if Hollow Earth doesn't exist, why does our government care?
yeah.
Well, there's also a theory that Operation High Jump that Admiral Byrd helmed in 1946 to 47. It was an enormous military expedition. I think they had multiple ships. We're talking destroyer and frigate class ships. Not something you send for just a polar expedition. I think he had something 4,000 men. And it's theorized, since you brought up the Nazi Party and Hitler and all that, like Heinz Himmler was very into the occult. And it's possible they had the sample spaces there, but what they were going to do is to wipe that out. Because that's a lot of men.
Yeah, and there's people that theorize that to this.
It goes on and on. It's but that for an Arctic expedition, you're going to have a large number of people, but that for about 4,000 people, that's a lot of people.
And it's they won't allow any they won't allow any military bases there. It's under the treaty that's set up there. So no military bases can be.
And nobody can claim territory in Antarctica either.
And apparently there's around scientific bases scattered across there. And from 30 different countries operate these stations.
Yeah. Now, as far as Operation High Jump, I got the actual total numbers here. 4,700 men, 13 naval vessels, including seaplane tender, destroyers, tankers, and apparently an aircraft carrier. Why are you sending an aircraft carrier to Antarctica? So that's a massive force right there. They had 33 planes consisting of transport seaplanes, apparently helicopters and fighter jets, or fighter planes. So that's according to what the stated goal was to train personnel for cold weather. I go to the Antarctic to do that. The Arctic is closer, and logistically speaking, would be easier to train warfare.
And if you think about it, the Arctic, it's close enough to like Russia or Canada or even Alaska. If something went to crap, you get out of there a lot easier than you could from the Antarctic.
But I mean, there's a large contingent of people. That's why a lot of people theorize to confront hidden enemies, such as the Nazi Party that might have escaped there, or to deal with whatever else they might have come across. But that's you don't just send it. That's like a carrier air wing kind of thing. You don't just send them into an area for no reason.
Right.
The show that I watched, I'll have to look it up, make sure what it's called. But they claimed that there was a Nazi base in Antarctica, It is whole.
At one time there was even a U.S. base there,
Yeah.
but they had to take them away because of the whole treaty thing.
That documentary I watched was called Hollow Earth, The Alien Lake, and Other Frozen Mysteries. That was on YouTube.
Hmm. Yeah, so that was a big undertaking for just a scientific expedition, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just well off base on it. So yeah, and then as I said, we also got the legends because the Patal, or however I said it at the beginning, that Patala is over 3,000 years old according to legend. That goes way back in our history.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
There, one guy I wanted to kind of mention. I'm not going to try to say his last name or his full name. I'm just going to call him Xander because it'll be obvious because he's French. So the rest of his name is kind of, a jumble of letters. So,
Right.
but this Alexander guy, he was a French occultist, and he claims it's from the 19th century. He claims to have met a guy named Prince Harji, and I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name either because it's a jumble of letters. And this prince claimed to be from the Great Argarthan School. So he was supposed to be a tutor at this Agarthan school. And he was supposed to speak the language of I don't know how to say that, but it's supposed to be the Gothians, and also speak some Sanskrit.
Sanskrit.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry,
You're good.
but my writing ain't that good either. But he's supposed to be able to speak. He claims that all everyone down there can speak or basically bilingual. Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Oh, no doubt. And I tell you what, you find so much stuff. I even found a telepathic that apparently had a connection with some of them down there. Her name was Diane Robbins. And she would talk to them telepathically, apparently. And they had a message for her to, relay to the world pretty much. It was just call for peace because we can only evolve peace. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's a theme that keeps coming up over and over again in it. And I think you said that French guy was a cultist, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Oh boy, I see what you mean.
Yeah. It's Alexander Saint something.
Alexander Saint Yavis hold on, let me look at that. Saint Yavis de Verde, something like that.
Better than all. Bet you see why I want you to try it.
That sounds good, Rich.
I'm not a linguist. I'm decent with names, but that's anyway. Claimed to have been made astral contact with beings from Agartha and received direct knowledge from the inner world. Published descriptions of Agartha's government, social systems, and spiritual hierarchies, despite never physically going there. Claimed only spiritual masters were allowed to enter Agartha through hidden entrances, likely in East Tibet and the Gobi Desert.
Wow.
Yeah. So here's another one. Ferdinand Ossendowski. He was a Polish scientist, traveler, author of a book called Beasts, Men, and Gods. Claims during his travels through Mongolia and Tibet, he heard stories of a Agarthi, which is kind of different from Agarthi, an underground kingdom ruled by a powerful king of the world. Locals told him that Agarthi connected with the subterranean tunnel stretching under all the continents. While Ossendowski never claimed to have entered it, he believed it was real and wrote monks he traveled with believed it was real.
That's definitely interesting.
Yeah, and then there's lots of explorers like Nicholas Roerich. He is a Russian mystic, painter, and explorer. Led expeditions through the Himalayas to Shambhala, which he believed to be the entrance to Agartha. Claimed to have received telepathic messages, spiritual visions guiding him towards a hidden kingdom. Reportedly witnessed unidentified flying objects in the sky over the mountains during his journey and believed some of the craft were from the inner world.
Wow. That's crazy.
I keep doing more research as we're talking.
Yeah.
I had to cram. She didn't let me. Yeah.
That
Well, they talk about, apparently a lot more cities than Agartha. I read one article that said they were saying up to like 120,000 different legendary cities, something like that. Don't quote me on that, but it was something to that extent,
I wonder, Hitler was in power well before World War II. And their flag had the swastika on it. And Admiral Byrd claims that the saucer ships that he saw when he entered the Hollow Earth had that swastika style or swastika type symbol on the ships, and it makes me wonder if Hitler might have actually made entrance to the Hollow Earth and saw that and wanted to try to mimic it to make them think he was peaceful like they were.
Well, it could be possible. He was interested in, anything from, golly, scientific stuff and the occult stuff.
And if you if and this is just things that are coming to my mind while we're talking, and I didn't think about it the other day, but Admiral Byrd claimed that the people that came to his plane were blonde haired, basically Nordic looking people. And what was the ideal people that Hitler's ideal people? They were blonde haired, blue eyed. And
he wouldn't.
yeah. So that makes me wonder even more, the people down there basically were blonde hair. I'm assuming they were blue eyed because everything I've seen depict them as blonde haired, blue eyed people.
Well, that kind of makes there's aliens out there that supposedly blonde-haired and blue-eyed aliens.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called.
The Nordics.
No, these were, like the grays. You have the grays, you have the whites, and all them. And they were set apart from the rest of the aliens, that have supposedly visited Earth. I don't know. I can't remember the name of them.
Well, what's so twisted about the whole Nazi thing and the swastika, especially, is the way it bastardized what the swastika was originally meant to be. The swastika is ancient. It is comes from the Sanskrit word svastika. It means well-being, good fortune, prosperity, and auspiciousness. It had nothing to do with what Hitler bastardized it into being. Yeah, what he did with it was sick and pissed off a lot of people that believe in like Buddhism, because it was in Buddhism a lot. It's in Jainism. It's been found in Neolithic carvings as far as 10,000 years ago.
And if I remember right, it was in Native American symbols as kind of like peace or something like that, if I remember right.
Ironically, you bring that up because one of the Native Americans that used it were the Hopis.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Hopis is the name of the tribes. It represents whirling logs, life cycles, harmony, and natural forces. All the the Nazi appropriation of it bastardized the hell out of it.
Well, that's crazy.
Real quick, here's the aliens that you're thinking about. So the Pleiadian aliens.
All right, here's something that's going to kind of blow your mind a little. You were talking about cities that you've heard. Well, here's some famous ones, apparently. You have Shambhala, which is beneath the Himalayas, Agartha, or Agarthi, deep in there is crust, accessible by the poles. Telos, which is probably beneath Mount Shasta, and its apparently origin is Lemurian, New Age lore. Poseid, which is underneath the Atlantic Ocean, apparently near the ruins of Atlantis, according to that. You have Rama, which is beneath India, in Hindu mythology. You have Earth, which is beneath the Andes Mountains, especially in Argentina. Yomi, which is in Japan, deep beneath Japan, Japanese mythology, symbolizes more the realm of the dead and the underworld. Then there's other worth mentioning are Zentra, which is apparently an Agarthian city beneath the Amazon. Shanxi, a city of hybrid beings, said to be in Tibet. Of course, I said Patala earlier. And Lanikia, sometimes mentioned in material at ultra high frequencies of inner Earth.
Wow, I didn't know that there's that many. I didn't dive too deep into it, that part, but that's crazy.
And
Yeah.
I saw where there's some people, I don't think there's very many that claim that Atlantis, when it sunk, it actually went into the hollow earth.
Hey, I want to know an interesting tidbit about Atlantis. Everyone attributes it to Greek mythology, and it's not Greek.
Yeah.
It's an Egyptian mythology that predates the Greeks by a long time.
I didn't realize it was Egyptian.
I didn't either.
Yeah, and here's a funny tidbit of history. Like, if you look at like how far back this legend stretches, it predates the pyramids, I'm pretty sure. So, and if you look at the pyramids and say a legendary figure like Cleopatra, she is closer to us in age than she was to the creation of the pyramids.
Huh.
So that's how old the legend of Atlantis is.
Yeah.
So when Greek travelers came to Egypt, they would hear the stories of Atlantis. It was called something else at the time. I'll see if I can look it up. But there is a place in the Sahara Desert called the Eye of the Sahara.
I've heard of that.
You should look at it on Google Earth. It is really unique. I might even try to bring it up here in a minute. But anyway, it describes Atlantis perfectly. It's a ring, and you have multiple rings inside of it. And it looks too perfectly in nature. And around the outside of the city is, don't you dare do that. Hey, no, sorry, cat's trying to fall in the bed. You look around the city, there are lines of white, right? You're in the middle of the Sahara. That is sea salt. So what happened to Atlantis? It got submerged in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly. So, that's kind of weird to think about that. You'd have all that happen and have the sea salt in the desert. And a lot of the legends of Hollow Earth say that the survivors of Atlantis fled underground.
Yeah.
This cataclysm.
Now I'll throw this out there because we're talking about Atlantis. The theory behind or the legend behind the Agartha is that they lived on the surface at one point, and they left the surface because it became too violent. With the people that live in the Hollow Earth are supposedly far more advanced than what we are. Yes, and Atlantis was supposedly more advanced than what the civilizations were at the time, and were supposedly peaceful. Who's to say that the people that live in Agartha are not formerly Atlanteans?
It's possible because, let's see, there's a lot of talk about civilization, a global spanning civilization. Oh, it's starting to get a little bit of traction in mainstream science. Not the Hollow Earth stuff, but of a global spanning civilization about 12,500 years ago. And what happened 12,500 years ago was called the Younger Dryas Extinction Event, which a lot of people have destroyed a common impact on the Earth that hit the ice sheets in North America. And superheated comet hitting the Earth, hitting the ice sheets, that would have caused major flooding everywhere.
Right.
It would have been enough for a wall of water to hit Atlantis, which even if it was in the Sahara, and bury it underwater. Because all right, let's look at facts here. We've got legends of the Hollow Earth and advanced people all over the world, right?
Yes.
What if at one point in time, the Hollow Earth, I'm just spitballing here. But at one point in time, a lot of these people in this advanced civilization fled underground or fled to where they could to escape that kind of cataclysm.
It could be possible. I mean, because, there is some reason there, a lot of them plenty underground.
Mm-hmm. There's also they're finding older and older ruins now. For the longest time, scientists didn't think, I can't remember what the oldest settlement they thought they were, but then they found something called Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which is around the time of the Younger Dryas impact. And they have found other cities in Turkey that are underground. Cities are underground, completely underground, meant to be a refuge from something. What would they be hiding from,
That's a good question.
We talked about it a little bit last week. I said I was going to look into it more, but I really haven't had a chance to. But there's talking about going underground. There's a city that's supposedly underneath Death Valley, and it's SHIN-AU-AV. And it's basically a city that is hidden under the Death Valley, and it makes me wonder if that could be these cities that are kind of in the what I would say in a cave system or whatever that's between the hollow earth and the outer earth, that if that is not kind of like a way station, like a stopping point where they're coming up and they have to have a place to stop and rest, then they built these massive cities or buildings underground before they came on to the earth, to the outer earth.
Well, I mean, they talk about the land and the whole earth stuff. It's lush, and there's a lot more land than there is water there.
Yeah. That, and we talked about a little bit the other day, the Anasazi, they have a legend where they came from a hole in the ground. They came from underground into this world. And then, if I remember right, the legend said, the Anasazi, they don't know what happened to them. And from what I remember is that the legend says that they went back to where they came from. Kind of like the Agarthan people left this world or left the surface because of violence. The Anasazi left here because of violence.
Right.
And violence can be interpreted as the disasters too.
Yeah.
Taking place at that time. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, if you look at Neolithic periods, yes, we were very violent in Neolithic periods. But what if you combine that with world catastrophe events going on around the world at the same time? And maybe it's a way of escaping the events going on above ground.
Yeah. What I just think about stuff like around people on the cross, or the more recent would be like the guy Dracula was based on was
Vlad
Taylor was putting people on spikes, or Hitler was gassing people.
The Jews was terrible.
It wasn't the Jews. He was doing it to the gypsy, anyone with disabilities. He did it to numerous Catholics and such. He was killing a lot of people.
Or what we did to the Native Americans when we came over here. I mean, it's throughout history. It could be.
What about the nuclear bombs we set off, in Nagasaki and Hiroshima? There's just so much violence.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah, our history is tinged with the violence, but you combine that, especially like one I found is the fact that the Hopi keep coming up in a lot of these tales, do they not?
Yeah.
Right.
And that they at one point fled underground to escape annihilation from forces outside their control. So they keep coming up. So you combine a period of time where everything is violent, especially in more Neolithic times, because they found Neolithic sites all over, say, Europe, where people have just been butchered. It's brutal, ritualistically too, and sometimes they were even eating other people.
Kind of like the Aztecs down in South America were sacrificing people.
Yeah, that's why the other tribes joined with the Spanish when they came over and wiped them out.
Right.
That was revenge.
Yeah, it was.
And all that, it makes sense, because, you have the quote, where Byrd, he's talking about, his message to bring up here was about, about peace, to, get rid of the nuclear bombs. And then this other one, this old telepathic, these people that are apparently in this hollow earth, they want peace.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense if you're from a race of people that say lived above ground. You see all this violence going on around you. Then you see these massive cataclysms on a global scale happening on top of it. You would look more for peace than you would war.
Yeah, that's very true.
Then, I'll also just put it this way: the people that were looking for more of a peaceful place to be was pretty much going, "Holy shit, let's get the hell out of here!"
Mm-hmm.
The I know we're trying to limit our language on this, but that's basically how my mind works. Is what they were thinking. It's like they got to get out of here.
Heck, the human race in general are violent people. That's plain and simple,
Yeah, I mean, if you, as I said, look back at the Soviets, we were fighting each other, we were fighting animals, and it's been born and bred into our DNA to do that. It's only since, I know it's more of a controversial thing to say, only since World War II has things kind of calmed down a little bit. You don't see the massive wars other than, say, Ukraine and Russia right now. I'm not even getting into that.
Yeah.
But those are world wars, you would see conflicts against major nations taking place very regularly. You don't see that in.
Look over there to where Jerusalem and them places are. They have a 1,000-year war that's been going on.
It's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
It's probably going to go on for a long time more.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not going to get into different ideologies. That's not what we're here for. It's just we've been fighting each other since we've had sticks and stones for weapons.
You are correct. Yeah, no doubt about that. It's been a long, hard road for the human race.
Yeah.
And we brought it on ourselves.
A lot of times. I seen one thing. It was not us as Homo sapiens. It's another human species had an average lifespan of like 12 years. They were getting. If you made it to 20, you were in the rare category. I can't remember which one it was, but they were picked off so often by either other Homo species, other predators. It was just insane. It was such a brutal world back then.
They had to be breeding awful young to only make it to 12.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I think I've seen one. The guy was talking about one that had his foot had been amputated by a croc and he had skull fractures from a jaguar him in the back. I'm like, you're just screwed there.
No doubt about it.
So I can see a race of more advanced people why they would advocate for peace.
Yeah.
For sure. That seems to be the tone of all the Hollow Earth stuff. I haven't seen anything about violence or anything like that attributed to them.
And that, and a lot of it is started coming, as far as the Hollow Earth or even other alien species, that they all started coming around saying, "Hey, y'all need to what you're doing." Basically, from the time we dropped that first nuke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We dropped that, and they're like, "Oh crap, we got to put a stop."
And luckily, we ain't dropped another one since those.
No. And we
If there was never another nuclear war, yeah, it'd
and
be in trouble.
and we came really freaking close to having a nuclear disaster here in Arkansas. We had the Titan rockets. They you know, we would be center of all this stuff, you know, because the fuel they used for them rockets was very volatile, and the gas line caught the fuel. They went to fuel the rocket, and there was a small puncture in the fuel line. They evacuated the base, and as the last person came out, he flipped the switch from the electric fan in it, and that electric vent fan, just a tiny spark, set the whole thing off, and a 10-foot concrete bunker door was thrown 100 yards. When and they got lucky that warhead not explode right there close to Damascus.
You know, it's a wonder we made it through the Cold War. Well, there's a thing. Sorry. You know, when the Russians launched Sputnik 1, we kind of panicked. And they're like, "Oh, they're going to get to the moon before we do." So we actually had to hit the moon with nukes. I'm not lying. Yeah, we had a plan to hit the moon with nukes. They actually had Carl Sagan, among others, working on this. And then they were like, "All right, we're just going to show the Soviet Union. We're just going to show them a mushroom cloud from the moon." And then finally, cooler heads prevailed on it. And it turns out, years later, the Soviets had the exact same plan as we did to nuke the moon, just to prove a point to us.
Right.
We had nuclear artillery at one point. We had nuclear devices that you could. Yeah, it's a wonder we made it through the Cold War without something going on.
There is still one Titan rocket that is still in a base. And the only reason it's there is for basically educational purposes. And the Russians have a agreement that they have eyes on that rocket at all times. And just because we have the one.
Yeah, so it's no wonder Hollow Earthers are, if they're around, like, they're advocating peace for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, we're about 3 minutes before this thing closes out. If you want to go ahead and close it out, Sean.
Okay. So, this is basically our second episode on Hollow Earth. For those who didn't catch the first one, that one's exclusively on, I think, iHeartRadio, and I'm trying to remember what the other one is. I can't remember off the top of my head. But then this one will be on you. This one will be on YouTube. You know how to do the whole YouTube thing, so we just have the other one on from the Podbean app. And
Richard is our technical guy, so we have to count on him to load it.
Yeah. So
I'll be loading this one.
On Podbean, it's up the Supernatural Roundtable, the Hollow Earth Part 1. So, well, anyway, then if anybody wants to catch Crystal and I on Sundays, it's Paranormal Adventures. Then join our Facebook page, Paranormal Adventures with Sean and Crystal, or y'all's is the Arky Squatchers. Then email address is paranormaladventures2 at gmail.com. And I think I got that in just in time. So
You did.